Not even 10, 2. And we're talking about 52.
Well, the angle I'm thinking about is the fact that government is in a serious conundrum. As we know, there's no money in the system. So government, as we know, really has rigged in money by way of taxes, direct and indirect. So they're just carrying on that path. It's the lack of creativity also that gets us to this point. How does government ensure that they mobilize enough revenue so that we are not sinking further, but also cushion the citizenry? And on the scale of things, they haven't been able to do the latter, which is cushion the citizenry, at the same time try and raise revenue. And that's the problem that they have now. Raising revenue, but not overburdening the citizenry. They haven't found a way to marry the two.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Okay. So this is the objective of the Excise Duty Amendment Bill 2022 is to amend the Excise Duty Act 2014, Act 878, to revise the excise tax rate for cigarettes and other tobacco products to conform with the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS protocols and raise revenue to mitigate the harmful effects of these excisable products, increase the excise duty in respect of wine, malt drinks and spirits, and impose excise duty on sweetened beverages and electronic cigarettes and electronic cigarette liquids to increase revenue. So if you have a Friday night and you like all these things, wine and spirits and malt drink, wait for it. The ECOWAS directive on the harmonization of excise duties on tobacco products directs that the excise duty on tobacco products must include an ad valorem duty and a specific duty. Specifically, the ad valorem rate is required to be 50% or more, while the specific tax is required to be the minimum equivalent of 0.02 United States dollars per stick in the case of cigarettes, cigar, and cigarillo, and the CD equivalent of 20 United States dollars per net kilogram for all other tobacco products. The bill seeks to amend Act 878 to implement this directive in line with Ghana being a member of ECOWAS. There's been an increase in the use of electronic blah, blah, blah. So it goes on to say, apart from mineral water and drinks, all other sweetened beverages, including processed fruit juices, do not attract excise duty. The bill amends Act 878 to impose excise duties on these products and increase the excise duty on mineral water and malt drinks. Spirits have a higher alcohol content compared to beer. However, the excise duty on spirits is lower than that of beer. To address this, the excise duty on spirits is being raised above that of beer in accordance with good practice on the imposition of excise duties. Consequentially, the excise duty on wines has been reviewed upward. So wine will go up, malt drinks will go up, pure water prices will go up, spirits prices will go up, cigarette prices will go up. What else? Signed by Ken Oforiatta, a man who said taxation to production.
He said inflation will go down to 40% soon as well.
Look at the growth and sustainability levy bill 2022. This is the memo that came with it. It says the objective of the bill is to impose a special levy to be known as the Growth and Sustainability Levy to raise revenue for growth and fiscal sustainability of the economy. The coronavirus pandemic led to the significant reduction in revenues and increased expenditure enormously. The double jeopardy of the Russian-Ukraine war has also resulted in unprecedented global crisis, depreciation in currencies, and impacted living conditions and inflation levels. The Ghanaian economy has not been spared these shocks. Further interventions are required to raise additional revenue for national development and social protection for the vulnerable. The introduction of the Growth and Sustainability Levy is part of Ghana's efforts to raise funds for carrying out these interventions. The levy is to be imposed on profit before tax of the companies and institutions and on production in the case of mining, upstream oil and gas companies, specified in first column of the schedule. The estimated revenue for 2023 is approximately 2,216,000,000 cedis. The levy is subject to review by the minister responsible for finance in 2025. Clause 1 of the bill imposes a growth and sustainability levy on the percentage of the profit before tax or the percentage of production specified in the second column of the schedule, the companies and institutions specified in the first column. It goes on and on and on and on. But this is it. So the companies are also getting the taxes go up. Okay, so now let's go to the appendix quickly. Category A, banks, non-bank financial institutions, insurance companies, telecommunications companies liable to collect and pay the communication service tax under the Communication Service Tax 2008 Act 754. Bureaus, inspection and valuation companies, companies providing mining support services, bulk oil distributors, oil marketing companies, communication tower operators, companies providing upstream petroleum services, companies and institutions registered by the Securities and Exchange Commission, specialized deposit-taking institutions, electronic money issuers, shippers, shipping lines, maritime and airport terminals. They will pay 5% of the profit before tax. All of these ones. That includes your bank, includes where you buy your fuel from, and you will all know how these companies will transfer these things to the consumer. Category B, mining company and upstream oil and gas companies, 1% of gross production. And category C, all other entities not falling within category A or B, 2.5% profit before tax. Ghana for Munsempa. So more taxes coming our way. And when they say companies that are liable to take the communication service tax, that's the 5% of communication service tax, which means that 5%, right? Yeah, of every one that you buy or every call that you make. So your Vodafone will take it, your MTN will take it, your Airtel Tigo will take it, your Glo will take it, and all of them, they will take it. And these companies, oil marketing companies, breweries, those who bring in the malt drinks, those who produce them, those who produce spirits, beer, everything else, they will push the thing onto the consumer. So it means that if you're, for example, buying a bottle of your malt Guinness for malt drink of any form for, let's say, 4 cedis, 5 cedis, potential of it going high is guaranteed if this get passed. So what exactly does the government want the people to do?
You see, Johnnie,
because we're already on the floor.
Yeah.
You are complaining that Russia, Ukraine, COVID, even though those excuses have proven not to be tenable, you have consistently stuck with that. COVID brought us more money to even do budgetary support. Now we are on our backs on the ground, and you are pushing us further into the hole. And you say we should burden share. And you are not showing in any way how you are willing to burden share. You are being very wasteful. So far, the government has been very wasteful, very reckless, and very, very inconsiderate to the citizens. Very wasteful, very reckless, very inconsiderate. What again does the government want us to do? What do they want us to do?
So I wanted a little clarification on mineral water. Is it the bottled water or the one that's... because Ghana, if you say mineral water, now we are able...
Yeah, we are confused.
So, because now...
mineral water used to be the sachet one.
Yeah. So now, if we need a little clarity on that, because I know for a fact that a lot of Ghanaians, if not all of us, anytime we drink water, we have to buy what we call pure water or mineral water, either in a sachet or... And it's already bedding because water is life, and we are not able to drink. We are not able to drink tap water as we used to. So now, if you are going to be drinking water, and they're looking at, the bill is in the Bill Amends Act 878 to impose excise duties on these products and increase. This is the word: increase the excise duty on mineral waters and malt drinks. Why would we be putting so much tax on water? And we all know in this country, those giving us this statement this morning, they don't drink tap water.
Yeah.
You and I don't drink tap water. A lot of Ghanaians drink pure water or mineral water. Now, it's the bottled water that everybody is even buying. So if you're going to be putting taxes on water, we have to be careful because the education on taxes or taxation in general is even so low in this country. People are not interested in all these readings that we've done this morning. They're just crying about the fact that they'll go to the market and the prices will be up and high. So,
goods liable to excise duty under this new law, if it gets passed, right? Water, In fact, they call it waters, including mineral water of all description. See, waters,
Yes.
including mineral waters of all description.
How?
Whether or not containing added sugar or other sweetening matter or flavored, and any other non-alcoholic beverages falling under headline 22.01, 22.02 on the harmonized system and customs tariff schedule. So everything. That's the first one.
Yeah.
2, mineral water. 20% of the ex-factory price. 20%. So if the factory is giving it to the vendor at 80 pesos to come and sell for at 1 cedi, or 90 pesos, come and sell at 1 cedi. 20% of what the factory is selling it for is what the government is going to add on.
Johnny, just before Christmas, because of inflation and all those other high taxes, the unit price of water, sachet water, was increased.
Yeah, to 50 pesos.
Yes. And now we are coming to hit us again with another tax hike. And which means that now, do they want us to drink water? I think we should kick against that particular tax.
Aerated water, 20% of the ex-factory price. Non-alcoholic beer, 20% of the ex-factory price. Energy drinks, 20% of the ex-factory price. Other non-alcoholic drinks, 20% of the ex-factory price. Distilled bottled water, William's favorite, 17.5% of the ex-factory price. Sachet water.
And that one is 17%.
Yeah.
And the mineral water is 20%.
Yeah.
We should not be doing this.
And the sachet water.
Sachet water is 0%.
Is it there?
Yes.
They put sachet water.
Yes, sachet water is 0%.
But the bottled water 20%.
Yeah.
Percent too.
Yeah, 17.5. And then
too.
all other waters, mineral water is. So I don't know what they mean by mineral water and then distilled bottled water.
And flavored water.
Yes.
Okay. But so
then
it's stated in there.
That sachet water is 0% too. Yes. And then fruit juices, including grape and vegetable fruit juices. Unfermented and non-containing added spirits, whether or not containing added sugar or other sweetening matter falling under heading to 20.09 or of the harmonized custom system, 20% of ex-factory price. Malt drink, percentage use of local raw mineral. Less than 50% of the local raw material will attract a 20% of the ex-factory price. 50% or 70% of local raw material will attract 12.5% of the ex-factory price. Then they have above 70% of the local material, you have 10% of the ex-factory price. Beer, stout, other than indigenous beer, percentage of the local material use. If you use less than 50% of the local raw material, 47.5% of the ex-factory price. 50% of the material to 70% get 32% of the tax. 70% of the local material get 10% of the tax. Cider beer, 20% wines, including sparkling wine, which people now call champagne for wedding, popping of champagne. 45% of the ex-factory price. Spirits, including good old akpeteshi. Distilled or rectified, 50% of the ex-factory price. Blended or compounded, 50% of the ex-factory price. We are taxing akpeteshi for use solely in laboratories. If it's used in the laboratories, 0%. Denatured to the satisfaction of the Commissioner General, 10% of the ex-factory price. Akpeteshi, 20% of the ex-factory price.
Hey.
Yes.
Which factory?
On that note, we'll take a quick break. When we return, Ghana had
But the water, you have to look at the water.
23 minutes after it. We'll see you after the break.
Okay, taste this.
Sure love mucho love.
It's good to try something new every day.
It's good when
Mommy's resting.
you get the rest you need because your family has got you. Vital, you deserve a life of goodness. This advert is FDA approved.
Do you need money to start a business? Do you need money to expand your business? Are you a government or private sector worker in need of money to sort out emergencies? Do you need working capital loan or do you need an emergency loan? Quick Credit will loan you money so you can repay in flexible terms. It's collateral-free loan with no susu, savings, account opening or deposit wahala. You just need to be a Ghanaian with your Ghana card. Quick Credit covers all forms sums of loan, and so you have no excuse not to work this year and beyond. Call Quick Credit on 030-2200-390 or 059-6920-833. Take note, we do not give loans via the internet. Beware of scammers. We are regulated and licensed by Bank of Ghana. Terms and conditions applied.
Quick Credit. Lending made simple.
Keys. What could be simpler than a key? Who doesn't have a key? A car key, an office key, a drawer key. But there's one key that rules them all. The house key. The key to a place we call home. The key to the home where everything comes together. The key to a home that is our own. A home where we make life happen with our families and loved ones. Adoha has been working hard for over 30 years to make home ownership within reach for many. Say yes to property with Adoha. Your dream home is one call away. Your dream home is a few clicks away. Visit our Accra project, The Place, by calling 030-2789-757.
Individuals, we embarked on major tax reform in this budget so that people will understand that we meant what we said when we said we are moving from a focus on taxation to production. On the real estate sector, we abolished the VAT on real estate sales. We abolished the VAT on financial services. We abolished this capital gains tax on sales of shares on the stock exchange. We abolished import duty on spare parts. We abolished the 1% import levy. We abolished the domestic VAT on airline tickets. We have reduced significantly the VAT on small traders from 17.5% to 3%, a flat rate. And we are beginning this year discussion with ECOWAS under the Common External Tariff, which we will be successful, God willing. We are going to abolish all import duty on raw materials imported into Ghana and machinery imported into Ghana. What we have done so far is giving meaning to our focus on production, because we believe that all these tax incentives would help, the private sector. And when they produce and make money, and we want the private sector to make money, then they can pay their fair share of taxes. But if you try to tax them ab initio, you may not get that much tax revenue. We also want to embark on a major industrialization drive. The program that we are doing, this is one district, one factory. That is, we have 216 districts in Ghana, and we are saying that
3FM Sunrise. 3FM.
8:28 here on 3FM Sunrise on 92.7. My name is Johnnie Hughes. I'm here with Helen Apiampofo and William Asiedu.
Mr. Speaker, exactly 2 years, 8 months, and 14 days later, I stand before you to declare that indeed God has been gracious to us. His favor has shone on our nation, and it is because, in my humble view, we, their new leaders, choose to serve his people rightly and sincerely, and may I add, competently. Mr. Speaker, thankfully, we came in with a plan and with the help of our gallant men and women of the civil service that we work with, we stayed focused, we kept our discipline, we kept our promises, and managed to strike a balance between maintaining fiscal discipline and supporting businesses and households with tax reliefs. Yes, Mr. Speaker, we dare to abolish all manner of nuisance taxes. Despite the limited resources at our disposal, Mr. Speaker, we implemented our plan, which included the introduction of stimulus packages for some viable but struggling businesses, increasing spending significantly on social services, and implemented our flagship programs. Mr. Speaker, we moved from taxation to production. Mr. Speaker, we've now also
lied to me. You betrayed my trust. Broke my heart. Taxation to production. Okay.
economic management team. It is quite clearly a fantastic team. Professor Jambafo, Dr. Akutose, Dr. Afriye Akoto, Honorable Alan Chiramanting, Boachi Ejaku, Ken Oforiata, Senior Minister Yao Osafo Mafu. What a solid team. In fact, can anyone remember the NDC economic management team? I'm sure they themselves cannot remember who their economic management team was. Kukrudu, fellow Kukrudites, we were elected to fix the problems, and I'm glad to report that we are fixing the problems and we are putting in place the policies that will drive the economic transformation of this country. It is very clear that the economy is beginning to respond to the policies of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
3FM Sunrise.
Governors Kwame Agboja joins us now on phone line. He is the minority chief whip and also the MP for Adaklu in the Volta region. Kwame, good morning. Thank you very much for your time. Oh, we don't have Kwame. We do know that the government is racing against time. To have its IMF preconditioned financial bills passed before the House rises next week. The government is anticipating to raise about 4 billion annually from the 3 revenue bills if passed, but the minority is bent on having these bills blocked if amendments are not made to them. A meeting between the Speaker and the leadership of the House to reach a consensus on the way forward hit a snag on Wednesday. A fired minority with full complements of their members are ready for a debate on the bills on Thursday. This is Speaker Bagbin, and he explained earlier the issues we played for you on News at 6. But joining us on the phone line now is the Minority Chief Whip and also the MP for Adaklu in the Volta region. I call him Adaklu Messiah. Govins Kwame Agboja joins us now. Good morning. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Hello.
Good morning, Kwame. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Hughes. Good morning to your listeners.
Kwame, the citizens are worried about the 3 new bills that are before Parliament. And they are asking the question, why now when everybody is in dire straits? Why now?
Well, first of all, once again, I want to thank you and your network. Yes, I agree with citizens that feel the pinch of the hardship in the country. The teacher, the nurse, the doctor whose salary is not capable of taking care of his or her rent and school fees, and basic household expenditure because of inflation and of prices and other things. And it is quite unreasonable for government to think the way out of this difficulty is to pile on more hardship through the imposition of additional taxes on the citizenry. We think it's insensitive at this stage.
What kind of amendments are we looking forward to? Because the minority has said that unless the amendments are effected, you will not agree to the bills being passed. What kind of amendments are you looking at?
Well, for some of the taxes, we think they shouldn't even be considered at all, because we don't think the impoverished Ghanaian is capable of paying more tax. Is it not the same government that said in the past that you can't tax your way out of difficulty? So I'm not sure what has changed now that they feel that the solution to our country is to tax more people. We are saying that the Ghanaian has never been unpatriotic in the sense that the Ghanaian knows that he or she ought to be part of the solutions to the problems in our country. Indeed, Ghanaians pay a lot of taxes already. What they can't see is government making the necessary sacrifice. You know the list of so many, unnecessary positions in government who are paid just like deputy ministers and ministers. Many of these positions, if scrapped, could make some efficiency savings that at least to prove to the ordinary Ghanaian that government is ready to bear part of the cost, the cost of the getting us out of the difficulties in which we are. But the government is doing the opposite, ever increasing the number of appointees and other things. And we are saying that now that 2 ministers have resigned, it's an opportunity for government to recalibrate the portfolios. If they can bring in more people, but take some people out, so that we can bring down the number of government appointees pinging on the scarce resources we have. We are not actually against individuals being nominated for political appointments.
Right.
Indeed, many of them are colleagues in parliament. They are fine gentlemen and are capable of doing whatever they want. But we think that this is not the time to do that. We think the time is for us to recalibrate and then get it.
I'm looking at the schedule for the Excise Duty Amendment Bill 2022. Water, mineral water, non-alcoholic beer, energy drinks, non-alcoholic drinks, distilled water, sachet water. You have wine, sparkling wine, cider beer, akpeteshi. All of these things are going to be taxed at this time, Kwame.
Well, I don't feel this is the right time to do that, to be honest.
Sorry about that. We have to raise Kwame Agboja back on the phone line. 8:39. I know you are itching to call. Don't worry. We'll activate the phone lines shortly for you to have a bite on this one. But the government intends to roll out 3 new taxes. 3 of them. Income Tax Amendment Bill 2022, Excise Duty Amendment Bill, and Growth and Sustainability Level. And I always say that the people who sell these things will pass them on to the consumers. They would not. I mean, they'll pass it on. Because if you, I mean, I've run a shop like that before. If you buy a crate of mineral or a crate of beer or a crate of whatever, you take the unit price or the cost price, and then you do your calculations, how much profit you are looking for, and then you spread it. And then you're thinking also of electricity bill, you're thinking of what you pay the waiters, what you pay this, what you pay that, GRA fees, what you call it, GTA fees. You're looking at so all of it goes into it. So what goes into the pricing of a bottle of your favorite drink will now change. And that's going to drill deeper into your pocket. What kind of life is that?
Because the idea to move from taxation to production, if it were taken seriously, would have gotten us somewhere by now. Because you see, you cannot increase production when the tax regime is so saturated with a number of taxes. I mean, the producers, manufacturers, and the business people will not even have any fiscal space to expand production to increase employment, because these things have dire consequences on the unemployment situation in the country. Because look, if a factory is producing at this cost and now the taxation is so high, interest rates so high, everything in the macroeconomic environment is so high, how do they expand in line with your production agenda that you set out to I mean,
they can't do it. It doesn't add up.
I'm just hoping that Parliament, now we have the numbers, will do the right thing and not just allow these things to pass, especially the area of water. No matter what name they want to put on the water, whether it's mineral water or sachet water or pure water, water is water. And a lot of people are drinking bottled water because there's the quality of the tap water is messed up because of even this galamsey issue.
And that definitely makes me feel resentful as a citizen. There's a galamsey issue going on. It's polluting our water bodies. As a consequence, we have sent military into the forest to combat that. Patrol units, we've bought speedboats. This is not from the government. No government comes into power as an NGO. This is you and I's money. Taxes, our monies that have gone into this operation, which time after time we've seen it fail. As a consequence, the waters are continuously being polluted. Ghana Water Company has to spend more money to treat the water that we use to bathe and so on and so forth. That money then gets passed on to you and I. So utilities have gone up as a consequence of government's failure to deal with the canker that is galamsey. And then also you turn around and put more taxes on the water that we are now drinking because we have to avoid galamsey water. At what point does government say that you as a citizen you've had enough, let me cushion you, just take a breather, because this burden sharing we're doing, the scales are tipped heavily to one side, to the side of the citizenry. On what basis really can government come and tell us that this is a good idea? And as William was saying, you collapse the industry. Factories will not have to lay off workers because they can't afford to continuously pay these workers. As a consequence, that's somebody who's taking money home, taking care of children, taking care of relatives. What are we doing? What is government's plan really?
Why is the government adamant on cutting down the size of its government? Because everybody is saying the same thing, from Joe Jackson to Alfred Thompson to the leadership in Parliament,
leadership in Germany,
governance experts to diplomats, everybody. Akufo-Addo is not listening to anybody, you see, in that direction. And the kind of wage bill that we have just to sustain the numbers in government is crazy. It's crazy. And you have duplicitous roles. People doing so. Helen is a communication specialist. William is communication advisor.
Then social media person. Well, we have the whole Ghanaian media at the flag.
You have church. You have church coordinator at the Jubilee House. Church coordinator of churches.
Wasteful. You set up a new ISD website when you already had that one that was functioning, and yet each department, each ministry, institution has its own website.
And then see, William mentioned there's no major media house in this country that doesn't have a presidential reporter.
We have ours sitting there.
We have ours sitting there with a dedicated cameraman. That's where they actually work from.
And then
so you have TV3 there, you have GBC there, you have Class FM there, you have Graphic there, you have Mirror there, or if you like the Graphic and the subsidiaries, you have them there. You have Ghanaian Times there, you have EIB there, you have Asasi there, you have Joy there, you have City there.
If they are not there, you know where they are.
I'm saying, but you have all the major news houses there.
What media work is?
So what again do you need to have a presidential press, a presidential press cinematographer, presidential press. What is going on?
15 communications directors, and yet when you want information, it's not forthcoming. But we have 15 of them.
Minister, we have a deputy information minister, we have PROs of all the ministries and agencies, and we have a information services department, and we have all this number of people in the presidency. Look, if you put just a marginal increase on tax, you are cutting work, you are cutting innovation, you are cutting savings, you are cutting investment. Because then people, as I said earlier, will not be able to expand their scope of production and businesses to save.
Yeah,
they should stop this. I think they are doing this because the IMF is pinching them here and there.
Well, I mean,
they are doing this just because they want to qualify for IMF.
The IMF is pinching them because of our own recklessness.
The IMF that you say you didn't want to.
The IMF is pinching them because, and we wouldn't have known about the COVID-19 expenditure if the IMF had not made the demand. Exactly. It's part of the prerequisites that the IMF. So the government should stop giving itself applause. That's the first one. 2, the IMF is making these demands because the IMF is like the big brother who comes into the situation because as a small brother, you have shown that you can't handle your own affairs. You are literally useless in managing the people. So now IMF is coming to dictate to you how to do A, B, and C. Look, we have been in an IMF program since until 2019, an extended IMF program inherited from John Mahama's period. Started in 2014, 2015, all the way. This government came and extended the program until 2019. Immediately they concluded the program, IMF left. They went back into the ditch like some child who has just been bathed and then goes back into the debt. And that's where we find ourselves. On our own, we have proven that we can't manage anything. Shishi.
And also, listen, government has been in a rush. The president himself says that he says, I'm in a rush. I'm in a hurry. I'm in a rush. I'm in a hurry. You have the likes of, and I know William will jump down my neck. The likes of Gabi saying that, in only 5 months we reached a staff level agreement, as if that was something to be proud of. When this same government says, if you go to the IMF, you have failed. It is that same trajectory that government is on in a haste to announce that we've done this. They don't care how they get there. Just in a race to get there.
But is it not the government is not even measuring up to the failure criteria? Because the government says that we will not go to IMF. Anybody who goes to IMF is a failure. And that they are going to give us small boys from IMF. You know, so today, even the criteria to go to IMF, which is equal to failure, we are not even able to meet it. So even to fail, we are not meeting the criteria. We are not winning.
We are begging to beg.
We are begging to fail.
We are begging to beg. And they are going to beg for money from IMF. We are begging them. We are begging to go and beg.
Is that we're asking neighboring countries, we're asking foreign countries to intercede for us, or say something for us, or China, we beg you. Where is the dignity?
And you see, this government is getting all these comments because there were members of this government when they were in opposition that described the government of the day as visionless, directionless, incompetent. They use all the words. So I'm just hoping and praying that all those filing their nominations for the top job of this country to become the chief executives of the republic should be listening to radio every morning and get the sense of what Ghanaians are saying, because we are speaking for the people of Ghana. So that when you speak in opposition and you come to power, we are going to hit you with your own words.
Yeah. I'm so thankful that the president tasked us to be citizens and not spectators. So I'm sure he's very happy with us this morning.
He's not happy.
He must be. This is what he tasked us to do.
There's so much censorship going on. If they tell you that they are happy, then listen to the president talking about fiscal discipline. and protecting the public purse. We'll go back to that tape, but let's talk to Honorable Kwame Agboja. He's joining us back on the phone line at Aklu Messiah. Good morning, one more time, and thank you very much for speaking to us.
Yes, sorry, I lost you there.
Right. Basic things like akpeteshi, beer, drinking water are going to be taxed. Is the minority going to allow that?
Surely, our role as a responsible minority is to protect the vulnerable in the country, the voiceless. We believe, as I said earlier, that the Ghanaian is already heavily taxed. The economy has made even those who are working their remuneration almost nonsense, in the sense that you earn, and if you are paid 100 Ghana cedis, that Ghana had 100 Ghana cedis is worth just about 46 cedis in real terms because of the almost 54% inflation. So your standard of living has been reduced by about half already. So people are already going through very excruciating pain in terms of trying to survive. And we are saying that the way government can show commitment to resolving this problem is to show evidence of some efficiency savings or government intending to take on some of the pain, i.e. reduce the size of government. Then you can ask people to top up in terms of other things we need to do. Government is unable or is not interested in taking any of these difficult decisions that affect them personally, yet want to continue passing the hardship on to Ghanaian who is already under a stress of survival. And we think that this is very, very wrong. That is why we cannot support it. But we believe that all they want to do is to marshal their numbers and get to the house and see if they can force their way through. Indeed, the Ghanaian public did not give NDC a majority in parliament. You know, we were almost apart in terms of numbers. Then during the election, they used force. Just to remind you, 7 or 8 of our compatriots are dead, were shot dead allegedly by security agencies, none of which is facing prosecution as we speak. And then further, they went to court to injunct or to prevent our colleague from Asin from participating. All these are not ordinary things that happen. They were intended to reduce the strength of the minority in parliament. So currently, if we all turn up in parliament, they will be ahead of us by 1 vote because our colleague, the second deputy speaker, who is independent candidate, a member, has decided to do business with them.
Right.
So these are the realities we have. So we will go and attempt to represent the people by opposing these things at all costs, and we see how it goes. And I just want to appeal to Ghanaians. We do not have majority in the House. The Ghanaian did not give NDC a majority in the current parliament, at least according to the result that was declared by Jim Mensah. But they can be assured that we'll do our very best to protect the interests of the ordinary Ghanaian.
The government gives us an impression that these bills are a prerequisite or conditions precedent to getting an IMF deal, and that if we do not hook onto them, we may not get the IMF deal, which is much needed, and then our economy will collapse. Is that the case?
I don't believe that. In the first place, the IMF, we were still struggling to get IMF deal, but the president and his government kept saying that the top of his priority was to build the cathedral. It took this same opposition to fight back to say that expenditure on the cathedral is unreasonable. You know, they were bent on paying another 80 million Ghana cedi towards the cathedral. We are saying that yes, the IMF will give you some conditionalities simply because you have messed up the country so much. IMF is also asking the government to downsize. You heard the German ambassador. In fact, Germany supports this government a lot because much of the loans, Eurobond, the things we get is because of the involvement of the Paris Club, heavily backed by Germany. Germany is asking the government to downsize. But you heard the response from the president. That you fear them, don't interfere in our issues. On one hand, you are a government that is have driven this country to its knees in terms of our economy, and begging everybody in the world, including Nigeria, for simple, the medication for kids. Yet you have the ability to say that you wouldn't do certain things. And we are saying that if the government shows commitment to downsize, to give efficiency savings, then we can discuss the rest. But I don't believe the only thing that the IMF said was just this tax handle. It's just like pouring water into a bucket. If you give NPP more taxes, more money, all they will do is to spend it on things that don't matter. So it is not simply because we are not paying enough taxes, but because we are paying enough taxes that have been wasted. Let me give you an example.
Right.
Ghanaians are expected to pay about 4.2 billion Ghana cedi towards NHIS this year. Another 4.2 billion towards Get Fund. Another 2.4 billion towards, road fund. Guess what? All these monies I've mentioned, only half of those monies will be spent on the purpose. So only about 2 billion will be spent on Get Fund out of the 4.2 billion. Only about 2 billion will be spent on NHIS out of the 4.2 billion. Only 1 billion will be spent on road work out of the 2.4 million that will be paid into the road fund. All the rest of the money goes to as discretionary spending of the finance minister. So tell me, is it the case that if we are not able to pay contractors, is it the case that we don't have money, or is the case that the government takes the money for roads and use it to do something else, including paying for cathedral and all the hopeless represent special initiatives? This is the reason. It is because we are wasting the money. It's not because Ghanaians are not paying more taxes. That is why we cannot support government to impose additional hardship on the people of this country through additional taxes.
Is there a way Parliament can compel the executive to cut down on these numbers, realize the situation we are in, and actually smell the coffee that people have woken up to smell?
Well, you know, I've said that already. NDC is the only viable opposition to government. I don't see how many NPP colleagues from on the other side will be interested in forcing government to do anything. You remember about 90% of them decided that Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta must go and made that point publicly. But when we came to the floor, they all chickened out and supported him to stay. So the point is that Parliament can do whatever they need to do, and that can only be done by the opposition NDC. And that is why we need the support. You will see us putting forward a very, big resistance this morning, trying to prevent these things from happening. But like I said, what if they have their numbers and they come to the House to do whatever they want to do? They have to be blamed. I hear people sometimes say the opposition is not doing well. We are one number less than them. The Ghanaian did not give NDC a majority in Parliament. If we had majority, I can guarantee you none of these things will go through. And we have used even our less numbers to try to force them to do certain things in the past. It is difficult to tell how today will end up in reality. That is all I'm saying. That
would your side call for secret ballot? Because the indication some of us have is that there are some members of the majority who may not necessarily be in sync with the government with the imposition of these taxes. And so if you do a secret ballot, you may get some people to vote. We
are preparing with our numbers on our side. It is difficult for me to know what my colleagues on the other side will do. But from history, in the House in recent times, they have almost all supported the government side, and I don't blame them for that. Yeah, there are some of the things that will necessarily have to be done through secret balloting because of what the standing order says. For instance, when you come to the issue of ministers who did not get unanimous decision at the committee of appointment committee, they ought to, naturally, what it means is that they have to be confirmed or rejected through balloting. There's nothing they can do about that one. So it is difficult for them to do that. I just hope that those who choose ballot papers will not emerge today to attempt to disrupt the process.
Honorable Kwame Agboja, thank you very much indeed for your time. That's Adaklu Messiah. He's also the minority chief whip on the side of the NDC in Parliament. The president said he would ensure fiscal discipline and protect the public purse. Listen to him.
Fiscal indiscipline has been the bane of economic management in the country. To address this, the IMF recently insisted on the passage of a Public Financial Management Act. However, the law as enacted is woefully inadequate because it lacks the key elements that will protect the public purse from abuse. Fiscal policy implementation as it stands now lacks three basic elements: the absence of a transparent institutional arrangement for providing quality fiscal information to the public, the absence of a mechanism for ensuring accountability in implementing optimal fiscal policies to guarantee the stability of the system, and the absence of an institution to ensure the credibility of fiscal projections provided by the government. To address the problem of the current high public debt levels and the country's high risk of debt distress, our government will adopt and implement rules to anchor fiscal policy implementation. For example, there will be specific targets for the reduction of government borrowing and debt. We intend to enact a fiscal responsibility law to bring comprehensiveness, accountability, transparency, and stability to the entire budgetary process. Under this law, a fiscal council would be established to set up medium-term fiscal policy and monitor compliance.
Nobody go beat up with a kill our future. I bend your back at the never taxation, I be good always. I be bad for win, I want for just being me. No be today when we start this thing. Then the guy wanna say I be the dancehall thing, but I know say don't be like my thing. Make a sweet time again, nobody can stop me. My mind that they use high time key.
Are you?
Yes, when me just
when it comes to speeches, there, President, there, A1.
I bend your back at
That's the way. That's where the problem is. Francis Timore is a tax consultant. Also, Julius Chima is an economic and fiscal policy analyst. You're joining me on Zoom at this point. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time. How are you doing?
Good morning. Doing very well.
Great. I'll start with you. Thank you. Francis, I'll start with you. The government intends to introduce 3 new taxes, the excise tax also, and 2 others. Is it a good time?
So, first of all, I must say one of them, which is the growth and sustainability levy, is not a new one. So I wouldn't see it as a new tax. It's been there since 2001. The only new thing that they are doing is that they are trying to expand the scope. And some new taxpayers have been brought into the net. For example, the extractive sector, who were not part of the existing one.
Right.
I feel that the inclusion of the all taxpayers at this point, looking at how businesses are suffering, I do not think that the government itself can even realize the needed revenue that they need. But here we are. Desperate measures require, desperate situations require desperate measures.
And then I'll come now to you, Julius. Ask you the same question. Is it a good time?
A very good morning to our cherished viewers and listeners, and good morning to my senior Francis. I think that looking at the issue with financial constraints, government is really faced with a lot of, liquidity. And for that matter, assessing and judging from the perspective of our economy and then of our budget, which maybe time will allow us to go into it. If we look at our budget figures with regards to macroeconomic indicators and as well the overall revenue and then expenditure, then to some extent it stands to reason that we need the monies and probably it's a good time for you.
If you look at the schedule and you pay attention to the items that will be affected, including beer, non-alcoholic drinks, water, which everybody takes, you ask yourself whether the government is being considerate of the present situation and whether they are actually in sync with the people of their lost touch. What do you see from where you sit as a tax expert?
So, you see, the issue is that it's not a good time, but mostly government will look at which space do I have? And for me,
support
hello, Julius. You would have to hold on for me. Let Francis take this one. Francis, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I was saying that if you look at the situation in which we find ourselves now, most of the policies do not really consider the situations we find ourselves. For example, the e-levy that was introduced, the VAT that was increased. Some of them, if you really ask yourself whether it's in sync with what government is thinking, I can tell you that no. Prices of goods and services are increasing. So nobody would have expected that you do any policy that will further exacerbate the price of goods and services. I will not consider that one as government being in sync with what is the reality is. Take, for example, the growth and sustainability one. We are seeing the tax being imposed on banks. Banks which are just coming from debt exchange. Profitability is already going down. So there is a little mismatch. But like I said, when you are in desperate times, you certainly have to take up some desperate measures. I think one of them is this one.
And for me, this will bring to the next question about consultation and stakeholder engagement. The minority has served notice that they will resist these things. It takes me back to the conversations when e-levy was introduced. It appeared the government didn't do a lot of consultations. Do you get a sense that that same attitude of government is finding presence in these three bills that are before Parliament?
I agree with you 100%, and you cannot be wrong about this. Look, in Ghana, we only get to know tax policies during budget reading, which is totally wrong. In some countries, you get to know tax policies a year ahead. You ask yourself, why is it that we wanted to introduce e-levy from January? We got it passed and fully implemented somewhere May, June, July, which is completely wrong. So the question is, why didn't we even do the engagement? Why do we do everything in secrecy? Then the people will now come and, start fighting it, and then the implementation is even delayed. We are already off quarter one. So if we really want to even raise that 4 billion Ghana cedis, you have lost one quarter off already. That's 25% of how much you are expecting. So for me, engagement is something that we completely refuse to do. And it seems we are not learning from our mistakes. If you look at the way VAT was introduced in Ghana in 1994, 1995, it was a lack of engagement. The entire VAT first time introduction in Ghana failed until 1998, right? So I don't know why we like to just surprise people, and businesses will have to wait and anticipate what is going to happen. What is wrong if you tell the people, even before you implement it, tell them, let the debate start, so that at the end of the day, the people may not be able to prevent the policy, but you let them understand, look at the pros and cons. Then we can even the GRA themselves, sometimes the short time that they have to implement it, they even lose a lot of revenue. So I won't be surprised if the minority reject it because there is no engagement. The extractive industry, they are threatened that they are going to even take legal action because there's no engagement. It is a problem that we have in Ghana, and we have to stop with, especially when it is tax policy. It is not good and it doesn't help anyone.
Julius, I'm sure you're back now. And if you can hear me quickly, if you look at the schedule for the excise duty amendment bill 2021, the goods that are liable to excise tax, the minority is asking for some of the things to be taken out. I'm sure you have seen it. If you haven't, I can mention them to you. But which ones should be excluded presently?
Johnny, can you go over the items?
Right. So the items that will be affected, waters, including mineral water of all description, whether or not containing added sugar and other sweetening matter or flavored, and non-alcoholic beverages falling under... Hello, Julius, can you hear me? Hello, Julius, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right. I thought that you were speaking at the same time. So water generally will be parts mineral water, aerated water, non-alcoholic beer, energy drinks, other non-alcoholic drinks, distilled water, sachet water, fruit juices, You're also talking about cider beer. You're talking beer other than indigenous beer percentages. You're talking wine, sparkling wine. You're talking akpeteshi. You're also talking about cigarettes, cigars, Negro head, snuff, and other tobacco, electronic cigarette, liquid falling under this heading. That would include shisha and all of those things. Plastic and plastic products listed under Section 3963 of the Harmonized System and Custom Tariff, textiles and pharmaceuticals. Okay, pharmaceuticals and textiles will not attract, but generally, these are the items. Which ones should we be excluding from this list? Hello, Julius. Well, I'm not sure, Julius.
All right, thank you very much, Johnny. I think that those
Let's try and fix Julius's line. So we may take Julius off and bring him up on. Simon, take this on for me if you can, and let's see what items you think should be excluded. Francis, let's see which items you think should be excluded from the list.
So I don't see why we want to impose those ones, especially water. I would have taken water out. Of course, there are some of them which you advocate that it should be on. For example, the electronic cigarettes, currently the physical ones, the normal cigarettes, there's a excise duty on it.
Right.
So if now the product has transformed into a more modern one, I don't have a problem. I mean, to ensure equity, we should have it. But I feel that things like water, which are so essential, we should have taken them out. Again, it seems that we have lost so much of the fiscal space available for us to impose taxes. And so if you were the finance minister, you keep looking at spaces where people consume a lot, and water is something that we can't avoid. Everybody drinks water. So they look at the easy ones to go, and that is why we are seeing it on. That may be the argument that the minister may put up and say, look, we don't have any other thing available any longer. So if water is available, let's put it on. I felt that those things should have been taken out because they are so essential, such that they don't need to be burdened with additional taxes.
And now fruit juices and all of that, I'm concerned about the end consumer. How much more they're going to pay for these products, fast-moving consumer goods. I look at snuff. I'm looking at akpeteshi. And William asked the question, from which factory? Because the ex-factory price is what will be determined, a percentage of that will be determined. Now, which factory are you going to bring the akpeteshi from, and who are you going to collect the taxes from in any way?
It is expected that the distillers, you require some licensing and some places to be able to distill some of these things. So the expectation is that alcohol in general, if you are selling, those places are where the GRA is going to collect some of these excise duties. But you were asking about the final consumer, which I think is the major problem. At the end of the day, the final consumer is going to pay the largest. If you consider the brewery industry, the effective taxes that some of them pay is about 84% of the price that they originally wanted, they should have paid. For example, beer takes about 47.5% excise duty. Then if you add all the other taxes, which is VAT, which is now 15%, the Get Fund, Hill, and then the COVID, which is 6%, if you add them on and then you compound them, the price now jumps more than 84%. And for me, if you're going to buy a product and you are paying about 84% of the price in taxes, that's too much. So again, in the end, it is the final consumer which is going to suffer. And that is why we advocate that, look, let's try and reduce some of the indirect taxes so that at least the essential products, we can save the consumer some peswa. Otherwise, things are going to be difficult in this town. And consumers have nothing to do. Now, water, essential commodity, is even going to suffer.
Well, I thank you very much for your time this morning, and grateful that you could speak to us on the Sunrise Morning Show on 3FM 92.7. Francis Timore is a tax consultant, also Julius Jima, economic and fiscal policy analyst. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning. We're grateful. And you heard them. Well, water.